Mr. Speaker, I'd like to offer this House 6 reasons to support parental engagement in education. The first reason we support parental engagement in education is that it is a human rights issue. Article 26, subsection 3 of the United Nations International Declaration on Human Rights, of which Canada is a signatory, states, and I quote, "Parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children." The world's foundational human rights document does not just affirm parental engagement, but states it as a right and specifies parental choice and, by implication, input into their children's education as a human right. Secondly, we can call support for parental engagement in education a matter of children's rights. Section 29, subsection C of the UN Declaration on the Rights of the Child states the following, and I quote, "Parties agree that the education of the child shall be directed to the development of respect for the child's parents, his or her own cultural identity, language, and values, for the national values of the country in which the child is living, the country from which he or she may originate, and for civilizations different from his or her own." The UN here recognizes the importance of fostering a relationship between parents and education. A third reason we may support parental engagement in education is to support Indigenous rights. We must learn from past mistakes, and I quote from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada website, "These government-funded, church-run schools were set up to eliminate parental involvement in the intellectual, cultural, and spiritual development of Aboriginal children. During this era, more than 150,000 First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children were placed in these schools, often against their parents' wishes. Many were forbidden to speak their language and practice their own culture. First Nations, Métis, and Inuit parents had no input and no voice in their children's education during this time. Meaningful input and meaningful parental voice in a child's education is recognized as important, and we are proposing to strengthen that and support this important finding of the TRC with our updates to education in Manitoba. In the aftermath of World War II, with the fresh perspective of war and global conflict, the UN noted the importance of parental engagement in education. In light of global discussions about children's rights, the importance of the link between parents and education was reaffirmed. And some of the darkest chapters of Canada's own history show that the state detachment of parents from their own children's education was devastating. We must learn from the mistakes of the past. Children do not belong to the state, but to their parents. A fourth reason we support parental engagement in education is to preserve diversity and culture. There is no closer link to cultural diversity than the families who make up Canada's diverse cultural landscape. There's no better way to ensure true culture is transmitted into classrooms than to invite parents into that classroom and to foster the celebration of culture. It was my privilege as principal of the King's School to serve as head of such a diverse organization. Our student population of less than 300 students represented 45 nations, and I loved the international flavor of the school. The playground was like a mini UN with children from around the world playing with each other. Festivals were celebrated, stories from different cultures were studied, food was shared, and language was respected. Friends and parents often translated for each other, and it helped that one of our vice principals spoke 3 languages. It was parents who helped us navigate culture. It was parents who told us and taught us about the challenges of their children. It was parents who made sacrifices to engage despite often working several jobs. One such parent I met when I came to the legislature because they're a cleaner here, and I asked after their children how their children are doing. They came to Canada as refugees in 2008. We welcomed them to the school and worked with them despite the challenges of the newcomer experience. So I was thrilled, Mr. Speaker, to discover that the children are prospering. The children are studying at university. The children are pursuing a variety of meaningful careers in trades, education, and other professions. When parents get involved, good things happen. Parents should not feel helpless when it comes to what is happening to their children, to what they are learning at school, and how they are learning. A fifth reason we should support parental engagement in education is to safeguard democracy. If public schools are to serve and reflect public interest, and if parents are the #1 experts on their children, who better to engage than parents in ensuring the school stays on track in terms of values and practice? Where is the forum for parents to engage? And why would we not take every step to increase that connection? There's no criticism in my comments here. I only note that it is a safeguard to us that parental engagement increases to offer grassroots care and input with the children's best interest in mind. When it comes to education, parents are the foremost voice we should listen to. No number of degrees makes you a parent. And while I value higher education, we need parents to be meaningfully involved in the life of their child's school, not only professors to inform and shape our education. More than half of the current school board trustees have no children in the public school system, and that is not what parental engagement looks like. We can do better. Democracy is not democracy if those doing the representing do not actually represent the best interests of those they are there to serve. A sixth and final reason we should support parental engagement in education is that children will do better. James Heckman, a Nobel Prize winner and academia's arguably second most cited economist, is internationally recognized for his research on early childhood education. Last month he stated in an interview, "These childcare programs I've looked at are only successful when they turn on the parents. That's the secret, engaging the family." Parents really do know what's best. The very nature of the parental relationship to a child, not to mention the quality and quantity of time spent with that child, yields far superior knowledge to any degreed expert. Even the Supreme Court of Canada has acknowledged in numerous cases, most notably Chamberlain in 2002, that parents are naturally the best informed and best understand their child's needs and well-being. Thus, parents ought to be, and by nature are, a child's primary educators. Any state policy or programs play a supporting role. This is well established in Canadian law as well as constitutionally protected in the Charter. Another top 1% cited economist, Luger Wassman, I hope I'm saying the name correctly, published a study in 2001 in a Harvard Research Journal of more than 250,000 individual students, representative of 30 million students in 39 countries. At the time, the latest, largest, and most extensive international student achievement test ever conducted, and the study found a student's family had the greatest impact on student achievement. In 2016, in another of his many studies, Wassman examined the international scores of 220,000 students from over 8,000 schools in 29 comparable countries. And again, a host of family background variables were meaningful and statistically significant in explaining student success. But again, the most powerful family background indicator was what mattered the most. When parents engage, good things happen. Wassman's research reveals an institutional system in which all the people involved have an incentive to improve student performance is the only promise of positive effects. Some will say parental engagement is too hard. There are too many obstacles. But we say, with so much at stake, with so much to gain, we must do all we can to make sure these expert voices are amplified and not lost.
Member's time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.